Greetings. This is Len Gilbert, and thankfully I'm still on YouTube. So today I have something rather special. I'd been talking to Magnus Diridian over the course of the last couple of months, and I've been trying to get him to tell his side of the story. Well, that was at least the reason I'd reached out to him originally. So what happened was I got in touch with him, thankfully, and I sent him a set of questions. Most of those questions, as you will see, were centered around what happened at Midwest Fur Fest and some other things, such as the Lemonade Coyote incident and the birth of Arkansas, his perhaps better known as the Confederate fursuit character guy. So I asked those questions. It did take him a while, unfortunately, to get back to me. But thankfully he did. He also, in that interim time, went to Dogpatch Press for an interview, which I'm not sure why Magnus did that. I don't think it was a particularly wise idea. Someone like Magnus, Magnus is something of a persona non grata and a target of the left in this fandom. So going to someone like Dogpatch, you're never going to get a fair shake. Just so all of you folks out there who are furry and are a target of the left, just so you understand, you probably don't want to do what Magnus did, because they'll never treat you fairly. They're just going to abuse and exploit you, as I believe they did to Magnus, judging by the article that Mr. Patrick Lake made about Dogpatch after that, about Magnus after that interview. So I'm glad that Magnus still reached out to me. I don't actually know Magnus from before this, so I'm not familiar with him, despite what some people might claim. He's not an alt furry. Although I do admit, as I've admitted previously about Magnus, I do have a bias toward him, just because I know what it is to be a pariah in the furry subculture. Other than that, I will try to be as fair and objective as I can, which I think he deserves. So with that, I'm going to get into some of these questions that he has, and I will put my commentary in between the questions.
Question number one. Let's see. Yes, MFF had the right to ban me from con space, but I never once got a letter from the Hyatt himself. I have not received any correspondence from Hyatt ever, period. But MFF only sent me one letter back in 2015, and that was it. And I was banned from 2015 and 2016, but not this year. I never entered convention space, just hotel space, and the letter specifically indicates that.
Well, first of all, Magnus, I thank you for answering that question. I know it's perhaps a prickly subject. I'd like to add a few things to this. What Magnus is trying to say here is that he was actually, in that letter that was sent to him, it was explicitly made clear that he was not banned from the Hyatt Regency Hotel. And so therefore, because he was not in con space but was in the hotel space, he cannot possibly be trespassing. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two, and what I think kind of needs to be said, is that yes, Magnus was banned, explicitly banned from 2015 and 2016, but the way MFF rules are made up is that if you are banned, you can only get unbanned with explicit permission from the board. So he was in effect also banned in 2017. not really a material issue because he didn't bother to even try entering Conspace, and to the best of my knowledge, he did not register either. The important takeaway from here is that, and I've done a YouTube video on Magnus's situation, including showing the, and Magnus himself showed the letter that he got. He was not banned from the hotel. So the security there, the so-called security for Midwest Fur Fest, number one, had absolutely no jurisdiction over anything Magnus did because he wasn't in the Conspace, and the Conspace is the only place they're allowed to be security at. And number two, he wasn't doing anything wrong. So even if the Hyatt hotel people wanted to do something, they couldn't, unless, of course, management of the Hyatt Hotel said that he was banned from the property, which, to the best of all of our knowledge, he was not. So, yeah, what happened to Magnus at Midwest Fur Fest is despicable, and it is wrong. And the people who run Midwest Fur Fest ought to really be ashamed of themselves. And Magnus, if I were you in this situation, I would actually take up this treatment that you've received with Hyatt corporate, whoever they are, whoever they happen to be. I would actually take it up with them, because what happened to you was wrong and disgusting. Continuing.
Oh, you want to know about the origins of Arkansas, the Confederate Flag fursuit? Well, when Dylan Stormfront shot up that school, and he was posted with the Confederate flag, this big outrage went out against the Confederate flag. I mean, eBay banned it, Walmart banned it, NASCAR asked people not to fly NASCAR of all things, mind you. And TV Land took off the Dukes of Hazzard. A guy who owned a General Lee painted over it with an American flag. But the final straw for me came when they took the Confederate flag down at a Capitol in one of the southern states, and I watched it live on TV, where they had an honor guard walking out there. And as they were walking out to take it down, I heard a black woman in the audience saying, take it down, yes we can, yes we can, yes we can. And as the flag came down, the crowd cheered. And for me, I got sick and tired of seeing the Confederate flag being under attack. I'm from Pennsylvania. We won, but I still believe in people's right to express themselves. For me, it's a sign of rebellion. I never once thought about black people when I was making this suit. But when it came down and a crowd cheered, that was the birth cry of Arkansas. They didn't do very good at taking this down. So, yeah, that's why I made this. A sign of rebellion, not slavery, but freedom, as much as people wish to disagree with that. And as far as the MFF thing went, I'm walking around there suiting, and they come up to me and they say, excuse me, sir, would you please come with us? Convention staff, not the police, not the hotel, but convention staff. And I said, no, I'm leaving. Well, the guy said, oh, no, you're not. At that point, I tried to leave anyway. I never once heard of anybody, usually when they think you're calling trouble, they ask you to leave. This time they asked me to stay. Yeah, and then I tried to leave. They got in front of me and tried to keep me from leaving the hotel. And I said, Nein! With a mighty cry of, this is Sparta! I forced my way past them. They tried, but they could not succeed. It was only convention staff, and they tried to squeeze in front of me, and with a mighty roar, I went to them. I was howling all the way through. Yeah. And then I went out in the street, and the con staff was after me, and he said, you think you're going to get away from me? And I just kept going, but I collapsed in the street. You know why? Because behind me, I saw red and blue flashing lights. I could fuck with the convention staff by getting through them, but I'm not going to fuck with the police. You know, you can't argue with a man who has a gun. I'm a tough pound, but I'm not bulletproof. Yeah. So yeah, I laid down in the street and said, screw it, fuck it. I could not get to the chopper.
This is pretty interesting. I was under the impression that Magnus collapsed. That was what I had heard, or that he was under some kind of fatigue, but it looks like he says that he willingly laid down on the ground. I find that a little strange, but perhaps because he was in fursuit, maybe that wasn't too unorthodox. Maybe that was how the situation would have otherwise been handled. So that's Magnus's, that's his take of the situation, and it does match a lot of the other stuff that we have heard. So he did leave the convention. We saw that on video, and then he ran away and security pursued him. Convention security pursued him outside of the convention premises. I'm not sure what's going on with Magnus's criminal case regarding, I think it was trespassing and battery. The video that was released, and we've seen the video before, I'm not going to rehash it. The video that was released shows that he was very clearly not the person who initiated that physical contact and was being barred from leaving illegally, might I add. So that's going to be thrown out, I'm quite sure. And the trespassing, I'm absolutely sure, will be thrown out as well, because, again, he wasn't in con space and he wasn't banned from the Hyatt. And if he was banned, he was not made aware of being banned. So even if he was banned, he wasn't aware. I'm quite sure that both of those are going to be dismissed rather quickly. It's too bad, and it really sucks that he has to go through all this shit, though.
Oh, so you want to know about the Lemonade Coyote thing? All right. Well, a long time ago in 2005, I made these things called the acid suits. They were supposed to look like that, but I could have used better materials. I needed to learn. I learned since then. But, I saw a Lemonade Coyote. I wanted to make a new, colorful, nice looking suit. So I saw a Lemonade Coyote and I said, hey, I kind of want one. I didn't make them to make fun of me. All I ever did in that was walk around for 20 minutes. Did not do it to make fun of a dead person, although that's a story. I did it because I thought it was a damn fine suit and I wanted my own. Scrat did it for the money. Ryan Hill did it for the lulz. I did it because I thought it was a nice looking suit and I wanted to pay homage to someone that couldn't be around anymore. Lemonade Coyote lives on. Certainly the haters keep on bringing it up. So thank you for keeping his memory alive. Far better than I could have done. What was I trying to get out of that? The only way you're going to get better is to try to emulate the styles of people that are better than you. I know I ain't the best, but a more creative fursuit maker, there is none.
I agree with that. He's got some awesome, Magnus has some amazing fursuits, and we've seen a couple of them. My favorite's always going to be the Arkansas character. But anyways, that is interesting, and I'm so glad that he answered that question, because for so long, the left has always done these hit pieces on Magnus saying that he was mocking Lemonade Coyote or copying, ripping off Lemonade Coyote. They always tried to make his act of doing that and put it in the worst light possible. I've never, ever heard Magnus's side of the story on that. And so I just wasn't sure. I mean, I don't think it is. And he admits in the beginning he learned it's probably not a great idea to do that, using the fursuit of a person who recently was deceased. It is tacky, and it probably wasn't a wise idea, but I wanted to know what Magnus's intention was. And He says it was to pay homage to a person who's no longer here. I'll leave listeners to decide on their own, but I have no reason to not believe him.
Let's see. Do I plan on going to MFF and Anthrocon this year as well? Well, I kind of want to take care of the issue with Anthrocon, but I don't plan on going back to MFF, and I'll tell you why. That con is just, there's too much security. They traded freedom for security at that convention. I believe there was one issue where a guy wearing a North Korean officer's outfit was stopped because they thought he was a Nazi. There was another guy walking around with a gas mask, and they thought he was a Nazi. They won't even let two perform an Anthrocon anymore. There's just too much censorship, and the Phantom is not as much fun as it used to be. But hopefully, in time, it'll reverse, although as big as the Phantom's getting, I don't know. Now, MFF is just too secure of a con. I mean, they were walking around with sound detectors, checking the decibel levels in case you were too loud. A guy at Anthrocon was bouncing around a big rubber ball, and they told him to stop it. You can't do anything anymore at MFF. It's just too much security. You can't have fun. You walk around, and there's like 1,000,001 rules. They put a big phone book in front of you, and you're supposed to have this memorized. All I've ever done is walk around in a suit. Did not go to MFF yelling Nazi slogans. I understand how close it looks, but that's World War I. It's a whole different animal, boys. But no howls were given. I did not yell anything about Hitler. That suit was based off of the Baron von Hindenburg, or the Kaiser Wilhelm. And Hitler and the Wilhelm did not get along at all. So, contrary to the character, no, I was not supporting Hitler. But it's easy to see how that could be said. But wake up, folks. Because apparently Nazis are still a thing. Even 70 years later. And how many of us were in a concentration camp? Any other fur cons you want to go? Well, smaller ones you say may work well. Possibly, smaller crowd. But I'll tell you one thing. I like big cons. I like small cons. I like those cons. And I can't deny. I'll go to any con. That's all for me for having a good time. Don't set out to offend anyone. Remember, it's people that take offense. It's expression, freedom of expression. But I never physically intended to do anything to anybody.